Right. So we've been like digging into some really cool stuff, right? But today we're venturing into, well, a truly foundational piece of 20th century literature, and definitely an unsettling one. Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis.
Ah, yes. Instantly recognizable, isn't it? That core premise is just unforgettable. A young man, Gregor Samsa, wakes up one morning and finds he's inexplicably turned into some kind of monstrous insect.
It's an image that really sticks with you.
Yeah.
But the real power of this story, this novella, goes way beyond that initial shock, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
We're going to dive into the potent themes Kafka weaves in here. Things like profound alienation, identity, searching for who you are when something unimaginable happens.
And those brittle family bonds, the way modern life can sort of strip away our humanity.
Exactly. So we'll look at the characters, the key ideas, and maybe even, draw some lines to other important works, other adaptations.
Yeah, see how it's been reimagined.
Our mission is really to give you a good, solid grasp on why this bizarre little story still feels so relevant, why it gets under our skin.
Wow.
So maybe let's just jump in with this. Imagine waking up and you're fundamentally changed, utterly unrecognizable. What's the first practical thing that even crosses your mind?
That really throws us right in, doesn't it? And it's the perfect way into the transformation itself. Kafka, he doesn't pretty it up, but he grounds this absurdity in a very stark realism.
Yeah, there's no explanation given, no magic spell or anything. It just is.
Right. It just happens.
Okay, let's unpack this, because it's genuinely jarring. Gregor undergoes this unbelievable change, and his first thoughts are basically, oh no, I'm going to be late for work. Why does Gregor's worry about work feel so central to this bizarre situation?
What's fascinating here is the immediate juxtaposition of the fantastical and the utterly mundane. It's that collision. By having Gregor's main worry be his job, Kafka isn't just showing the irrationality of the new situation. He's also shining a light on the rigid, sometimes absurd demands of his old life. I mean, think about it. This huge life-shattering thing occurs, and his programmed response is about missing the train, about his boss. It's deeply ingrained.
Exactly. And the fact that there is no explanation for the change, that just ramps up the feeling of powerlessness, of alienation. You can't solve it. It's just this horrible new reality you're stuck in.
It's like this extraordinary, impossible event gets dropped into a world that just keeps grinding on with this bleak kind of normalcy.
Precisely.
And that leads us right into the characters, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And how their identities just get completely shaken up, starting with Gregor himself. Before all this, he seems defined entirely by being the breadwinner.
Yeah, his whole sense of self, his value, it's tied completely to his job, to his utility for the family.
And the transformation just rips that away instantly.
It invalidates that role entirely. He can't work, can't provide.
Yeah.
And in that vacuum, you start to see the conditional nature of the family's affection, maybe.
Right.
What makes it so tragic, so poignant, is that even as this insect, these bits of his human consciousness linger. He has memories, desires, he longs for connection. You really see it when his sister plays the violin.
Oh, that scene, yeah. But as the story goes on, those human parts, they sort of fade. They erode as his physical form and maybe his mind become more insect-like. It's not a heroic struggle. It's just this slow, sad decline, ending in a death that's really about neglect and just utter despair.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Look at how each family member changes in response to Gregor. Take his sister, Grete. First, she's the caregiver, right? His main link to humanity.
She steps up initially.
But she goes through a huge shift herself.
She really does. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, how do these individual transformations reflect broader societal shifts or pressures? Grete's initial care, her compassion, it's significant, but the burden, it's immense.
You can see it weighing on her.
And as she starts to imagine a future without him, without this burden, her feelings they do a complete 180. It's chilling when she finally says, we have to get rid of it.
It's brutal.
It is a pivotal moment. But, you could also ask, is it maybe a desperate act of self-preservation? A necessary step for her own survival, her own independence even?
That's a tough question. And the father's change is just as dramatic, maybe more so. He starts out seeming kind of weak, indebted.
Almost passive.
And he ends up almost tyrannical. Forced back to work, he gets assertive, even violent towards Gregor. That whole scene with the apples.
Oh, the apples. It's incredibly brutal and symbolic, of course. The father's shift really embodies that societal focus on, economic productivity and kind of rigid patriarchal structure. He seems to value the ability to contribute above all else. Gregor can't do that anymore, so he's not just useless, he's something monstrous, an abomination.
So the violence is like reclaiming his authority.
We could see it that way, reclaiming authority, forcefully rejecting this unproductive member of the household. It's a really stark look at how societal roles can twist family relationships.
And the mother, she seems stuck, doesn't she? In this awful place between like maternal instinct and just total fear and revulsion.
Absolutely trapped. Her frailty, her back and forth emotions, it really underscores her dependence, her lack of agency in this whole impossible crisis.
She can't seem to act decisively.
No. She kind of represents that more traditional maternal feeling, but even that gets overwhelmed by the horror, the practical nightmare of Gregor's condition.
Yeah.
It really makes you question their initial affection for him. Was it truly unconditional, or was it tied to his role as provider?
It really makes you wonder, are the family just the villains here?
Yeah.
Simple as that. Or are their reactions, horrific as they are, somehow understandable, given the sheer impossibility of it all? And what about Great saying they have to get rid of him? Is that pure betrayal? Or, like you said, maybe necessary for her?
It's complex.
And there's that really chilling detail at the end. After Gregor dies, the family seems almost revitalized, like his existence was literally draining the life out of them.
These are exactly the uncomfortable questions Kafka pushes us towards. It's easy to just condemn the family outright, but Kafka presents their reactions with this unsettling realism. They're facing something utterly impossible, with no map, no clear right or wrong, their disgust, their resentment. Maybe it's an extreme version of how society often reacts to disability, to dependence, to anyone who doesn't fit the mold of being productive.
So grief and shift.
While it seems cruel, you can argue it's a desperate, maybe ultimately heartbreaking act of self-preservation. And yes, that resurgence of life in the family after his death definitely hints at something parasitic, like his unwilling sacrifice somehow enables them to move on.
So what does this all mean? We've talked about the crazy transformation, the family's reaction. What are the big takeaways here? What core themes is Kafka really digging into?
This raises an important question. How do these themes resonate with our understanding of the world today?
Well, one of the most powerful, obviously, is alienation, isolation.
Yeah, seems central.
Gregor was already kind of isolated, wasn't he? By his job, his role. The transformation just makes that inner state physically visible.
Yeah.
Absolute. He's trapped. Physically, emotionally, socially, just trapped. And then there's just the sheer absurdity of it all, permeating everything. No logic to the transformation, and the way everyone reacts often defies reason too.
Exactly. It's like Kafka's highlighting the meaninglessness that can lurk beneath the surface of our lives sometimes.
That inherent absurdity.
Precisely. The inexplicable event, the illogical responses.
Yeah.
It highlights the absurdity of Gregor's situation, and maybe the human condition itself, and that ties right into guilt and shame.
Yes. Gregor feels so much guilt.
He internalizes how the family feels about him, feels guilty he can't provide, even as a giant bug, which is absurd in itself, but that leads to him isolating himself even more, contributing to his own end.
You also feel that critique of bureaucracy, modern work life, that dehumanizing aspect. He hated his job, felt trapped by debt.
Right.
And his manager's reaction is just so cold. All about lost productivity, not about Gregor the person.
Yeah, while it's maybe not as overt as in, say, The Trial, the story definitely critiques a system that values productivity over people. Gregor is reduced to his function. When he can't perform that function...
He's worthless.
Or worse. Worse than worthless.
Yeah.
Repulsive. The manager's attitude nails that dehumanization perfectly. And even the ending, which might seem optimistic with the family looking ahead, it feels deeply uneasy, doesn't it?
Oh, totally.
It implies Gregor's suffering, his death, somehow benefited them, which just reinforces that unsettling feeling.
It's fascinating to see how this story fits into a larger conversation with other writers. You mentioned Kafka's other big works like The Trial, The Castle. There are definite parallels, aren't there? Protagonists battling these huge, impersonal, dehumanizing systems they can't comprehend.
What's remarkable here is how Kafka anticipated or contributed to these later literary movements. You look at Joseph K. in The Trial, like Gregor, a victim of this inscrutable oppressive force. Or K. in The Castle, his endless, futile struggle against indifferent bureaucracy. It mirrors Gregor's powerlessness. And across Kafka's short stories, too, A Hunger Artist. In The Penal Colony, you see these recurring themes. Suffering, the grotesque, characters pushed to the margins, echoes of Gregor everywhere.
And it's not just Kafka's own stuff, right? You brought up Dostoevsky, Notes from Underground, and Camus' The Stranger. That deep sense of alienation connects them.
Absolutely. With Dostoevsky, you get that intense inner struggle, feeling like an outsider, separate from everyone else. That resonates strongly with Gregor.
Yeah, I can see that.
And with Camus, Meursault, like Gregor, is judged and rejected for not conforming to social expectations. There's that shared sense of an indifferent universe, which feels very much like the unexplained nature of Gregor's change. You can definitely place the Metamorphosis as a key work in existentialist literature.
How so, specifically?
Well, it tackles those core existential themes. Absurdity that clash between our desire for meaning and a universe that doesn't seem to offer any. Freedom, or maybe the lack of freedom. Responsibility, the whole search for meaning when meaning seems absent.
Right.
You can even see links to the theater of the absurd, Beckett, Ionesco. Illogical situations, characters struggling against forces they can't understand.
How do these different versions change our understanding of the story?
Oh,
It always strikes me that actually showing Gregor visually must be incredibly hard. Capturing the monstrosity, but also that flicker of humanity inside.
This raises an important question. What makes the core of this narrative so adaptable across different artistic forms? You're right, the visual aspect of Gregor is a huge challenge for film. How do you show him so he's repulsive, but you still feel for him, connect with his inner state?
Tricky.
Very. Maybe that's why a lot of film versions are shorter or more independent. They might go for a more symbolic or abstract approach rather than trying for photorealism, which could honestly just be grotesque.
What about theater? Seems like the stage might offer different ways and maybe more metaphorical ways for his physicality, the claustrophobia.
Exactly. Theater really allows for that. You can use puppetry, physical theater, really creative set design to convey the feeling of being trapped, the alienation, the oppressive atmosphere, without needing a literal giant bug suit.
Right, it can lean into the symbolism.
Which can actually make the transformation more powerful in a way. Less about the shock value, more about the meaning.
And things like animation, graphic novels, those shorter visual forms seem like they'd be a good fit for this surreal, isolated feeling too.
Yeah, definitely. The focused nature of a short film or animation can really punch up the shock and the isolation. And graphic novels, they give artists a direct way to interpret Gregor's look, the apartment's atmosphere, creating really striking images that stick with you and shape how you feel the story's mood.
The Metamorphosis.
Yeah.
It really does remain just incredibly powerful and so unsettling still. It's amazing how this frankly bizarre story about a guy turning into a bug still make us think so much.
It absolutely does. Through Gregor's change, Kafka just cuts right to the bone, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Shows us how fragile identity can be, how conditional love, even family love, might be. And those isolating, dehumanizing forces in modern life, they're all laid bare.
It's clear Gregor's transformation isn't just some weird plot point, it's the catalyst, right?
Yeah.
For understanding these deep human worries, these societal problems that, well, they still hit close to home for us today.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up, maybe let's leave you with one last thing to chew on, something to ponder. Considering Gregor's humanity seems to fade bit by bit, at what point does the self actually cease to exist when someone undergoes such a radical, irreversible change?
That's a deep one.
And maybe, how might our own identities be more fragile, more contingent on circumstance than we usually like to admit? Something to think about. We definitely encourage you to reflect on these themes and maybe revisit Kafka's strange, profound masterpiece, or discover for the first time. So for everyone listening, catch you next time, folks, on this podcast series called Short Stories, Long Talks, exclusively on Spotify.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
See ya.